Welcome back. I'm Will. You know, there's something I've been noticing more and more, especially over the last year, as more people start creating content and trying to build something online. At the beginning, everything feels exciting. There's momentum, there's curiosity, and there's this sense that, if I just stay consistent, something will eventually click. And to some extent, that's true, consistency does matter. But then something happens that I think is a lot more common than people admit. People stay consistent, they improve their content, they even grow an audience, and yet, when they look at their actual business results, clients, revenue, opportunities, there's a disconnect. And that disconnect creates a very specific kind of frustration, because it doesn't feel like they're doing something wrong. It feels like they're doing everything right, just without the outcome they expected.
Yes, and that's exactly the moment where most people get stuck, not because they lack effort, but because they lack structure. And what makes it even more challenging is that from the outside, everything looks like progress. The numbers go up, engagement increases, content improves, so naturally, the assumption is that results should follow. But the missing piece is that content, by itself, is not a system. And without a system, there's no predictability.
That word, predictability, is actually key here, because I think what most people are really looking for is not just growth, but control. They want to understand why something works, how to repeat it, and how to scale it. So instead of hoping that a post performs well, they want to know, if I do this, I can expect this result. And that's where content needs to evolve from something creative into something structured.
Exactly. And that transition, from creativity to structure, is what turns content into a client acquisition system.
Let's unpack that transition, because I think it's not always obvious when it should happen. From a practical perspective, someone might be posting for weeks or months, gradually improving, learning new things, experimenting with different formats, and all of that is part of the process. But at some point, continuing in that same loop, posting, hoping, repeating, stops producing meaningful progress. So how does someone actually recognize that moment where they need to stop thinking like a creator and start thinking like a system builder? And more importantly, what changes in the way they approach content when that shift happens?
That's a great way to frame it, because the shift is not about doing more, it's about thinking differently. The moment content needs to become a system is when effort stops compounding. In the beginning, almost any effort leads to improvement because everything is new. You're learning, experimenting, building skills. But eventually, improvement slows down, and that's where structure becomes necessary. There are 3 very clear signals that indicate this shift. 1. Results are inconsistent. You might have one post that performs well, followed by several that don't. And the problem is not the performance itself, it's the lack of understanding behind it. If you can't explain why something worked, you can't repeat it. 2. Engagement doesn't lead anywhere. People are watching, liking, even commenting, but they're not taking the next step. That means the content is attracting attention, but not guiding it. 3. There is no clear path to action. This is the most important one. If someone consumes your content and doesn't know what to do next, not because they're not interested, but because it's not clear, then the system is incomplete.
That second point is interesting, engagement without direction. Because I think a lot of people chase engagement as a goal, without realizing that engagement is just a signal, not an outcome. And it almost feels like there's a missing layer between content and conversion, something that connects the two.
Yes, and that layer is conversation.
That's something I want to explore more deeply, because it feels like this is where most of the real opportunity is, and also where most people struggle. If content is the starting point, and sales is the end point, then this middle layer, where someone goes from passive consumption to active engagement, is where everything either moves forward or stops. So instead of thinking about content as the main conversion tool, it might be more accurate to think of it as a trigger. How should someone design that trigger intentionally? Not just adding a CTA, but actually creating a path that feels natural, logical, and easy to follow?
Yes, and I'm glad you're emphasizing that, because this is where strategy replaces randomness. Content doesn't convert directly, it creates intent. And that intent needs to be captured and guided. So instead of asking, how do I make this post sell? The better question is, what happens after someone is interested? There are 3 key components. 1. Signal identification. You need to recognize who is interested. This could be someone commenting something specific, someone watching multiple pieces of content, someone replying to a story. 2. Low friction entry. The next step should be easy. Instead of asking for a big commitment, you create a small action, sending a message, replying with a keyword, clicking a simple link. 3. Conversation flow. This is where trust is built. And this is also where most people either overcomplicate things or avoid them completely.
That hesitation is real, because once it becomes a conversation, it feels more personal, more direct, and people start overthinking.
Exactly. And this is where AI becomes extremely useful.
Let's go deeper into that, because I think most people still use AI at a very basic level, generating captions, maybe ideas, sometimes scripts. But what you're describing is something much more strategic, using AI to design the entire journey. So if someone wanted to go beyond just content creation and actually build a system, how would they use something like ChatGPT in a structured way?
Yes, and this is where the real leverage comes from. Instead of using AI for isolated tasks, you use it for system design. Step 1. Define the client journey. Prompt. Map the journey from first contact to becoming a client in my niche. This gives you structure. Step 2. Create content per stage. You generate content for awareness, consideration, decision. Step 3. Simulate conversations. You can literally practice scenarios: hesitant client, confused client, ready to buy client. Step 4. Optimize responses. You refine clarity, tone, persuasion.
That actually removes a lot of uncertainty. Because instead of reacting in real time, you've already thought through the process.
Yes, and that creates confidence.
Let's ground this in a real example, because I think that's where everything becomes clear. Imagine someone who has been posting consistently, getting moderate engagement, but struggling to convert that into clients. They're not a complete beginner, but they're also not seeing business results. How would you take that situation and turn it into a working system, step by step?
Let's break it down. Step 1. Clarify positioning. Instead of broad content, define a specific problem. Step 2. Align content. Content shifts from general to problem specific. Step 3. Add direction. Every piece of content leads somewhere. Step 4. Build conversation flow. Questions to understanding to solution.
So nothing is random anymore.
Exactly.
It feels like the biggest shift here is not tactical, but conceptual.
Yes, content is not content anymore. It's infrastructure.
There's something that changes when things stop feeling random. When effort connects to outcome. When actions start making sense.
And that's when confidence becomes real, not because things are perfect, but because they're predictable.
And predictability removes a lot of doubt.
Yes, because now you're not guessing anymore. You don't need more content. You need a system that turns content into clients.
And once that system is in place, everything becomes easier to scale. And when you reach that point, it's no longer about chasing results. It's about refining a system that already works.
And that's where real growth begins, not from doing more, but from doing the right things, consistently and intentionally.
We'll see you in the next episode, where we go even deeper into building systems that actually scale.